Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast. I'm your host, Marvolo San Germain, and joining me as always is my co-host, Sebastian Soderberg.
I'm so confused.
What's the matter, Sebastian? You don't like change? Well, guess what? Change is inevitable, and it's coming for you and for 5th edition. How are you today?
Wasn't Saint Germain that lad in Castlevania?
Yeah, and Marvolo was one of Voldemort's names.
Okay, right. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm good.
Just kidding, folks, in case you're wondering. It's Conor and Martin, obviously. Um, yeah, no, in case you guys
I'm
haven't picked up on it
I'm
from the title,
I'm so
there are
off
some
stride.
changes.
I'm
There are some changes coming to 5th edition.
I'm so off stride now. I'm just like,
I know,
what?
I'm like 3 levels deep on the meta of this one. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Um,
No, no, yeah, go. Let's go, man. You like, I can't say anything after the intro I did last week.
I went for Marvolo Saint Germain for me, and I went for Sebastian Soderberg for you. Sebastian, I don't know, just came to mind.
Sebastian Stan.
Soderberg, maybe. Soderberg is the last name of one of the.
I recognize that last name for some reason though.
He's one of the guys in Amon Amarth.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I
Yeah,
think you'd
yeah, yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. No, the only one whose name I really know is the lead singer Johan Hegg.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I knew the
This
name.
guy's also named Johan,
Oh,
but
cool.
then again, they're
Yeah,
Swedish, so that's
yeah,
like John. You know, it's really common.
yeah, or Michael here.
Yeah,
Um,
Michael. Yeah,
yeah,
Sean.
Mary.
Yeah.
You know, you're in an Irish classroom and someone goes Michael or Mary, and like 4 or 5 heads.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But okay, I know if we're going back to our real names, Connor, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Managed to get a session D&D in, so my players are now actually on Osteria, the Fables capital city
Ooh.
of the giants. And they've made their way up to its second tier. It's got 3 tiers. And currently looks like the giant army is massing at the top of a mountain in a bunch of like space longships, basically pulled by sky swimmers.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
and they've also intercepted a battle plan that indicates most of the major cities that they've visited over their time in the campaign are all about to be attacked by various kinds of giants.
That's how you do it, Martin. You get them emotionally attached by having them do other stuff there, and then you go, but what if it was destroyed?
Yeah, that's why an NPC they like lost an arm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he
Not,
got
not, not pulling your punches.
he got a lightning arm.
As in made of lightning?
It's made of lightning and ice. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He's got like no arm here, and then like when he goes into a rage, his rage manifests a new limb of like ice and lightning for him.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I
Yeah.
had an idea for a drow character I wanted to play who's a warlock, and she lost her arm when it was kind of a bit of a is it Abe's Oddworld kind of thing where he works within the factories as like a slave or something like that.
He's a slave who's
Um,
tasked with keeping the other ones alive. Isn't that? I've never
doesn't
played the
he?
game other than like five
Oh,
seconds,
okay.
I think.
He basically the opening to one of them, I'm not sure which one it is that it might be all of them. He basically discovers that the people they're working for are planning on like eating them.
Oh,
They're working them until they can eat them or something like that.
that sounds familiar.
Um, yeah, and I had this idea for a drow who's part of this like sect of like this religious sect. And they're like, oh, we're doing the good job because we're holy and this is our devout, purpose and all that. But actually, they're up to some shady stuff, and she discovers that what she's following isn't what she thinks it is. So she tries to run, and then her mentor follows her and slices her arm off. And she gets a little bit Dishonored style. She kind of gets a vengeance demon kind of comes
Cool.
and is all like, I can help you get back at those people. So when she's a hexblade, and when she summons her weapon is an arm made of smoke.
Oh, that's very cool. Reminds me of the like warlock mini boss you threw at us back in the day when we were fighting the Darrow. That one who had the big bone claw arm.
Oh, remind me of this, the Darrow.
It was
Oh
it was
yes,
it was around the time Wabu died. And there was like a Darrow warlock who had like it was a female Darrow warlock, and
yeah,
she was also a seeker pacted at home, I think, but she had like a crazy big like bone arm.
yeah. It was sort of an auto mail
Yeah.
thing for any Full Metal fans out there. But it was made of bone instead of metal. Yeah, like constructed bone, and it was kind of like much bigger than it should have been. So she was a little bit like lopsided, but she would kind of like almost use it as like a third leg.
Yeah.
She would kind of rest on it or kind of lean onto it and stuff like that because it can take her weight. Yeah, so cool. I think she had a blaster in a palm or something as well, like Iron Man style, if I remember correctly.
I
But
don't
I might be misremembering that.
I don't think she had the blaster. The only thing I can really remember about her is the big bone claw arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, Martin.
Yeah.
Actually, question: have you seen Batman yet? The
No.
Batman, I should say.
I haven't, but I have seen the deleted scene with the Joker.
Yes, very cool.
Very
Very cool.
cool. I love that.
Um,
It actually
but
makes me really, really like because I'm working this weekend, but I'm off Monday, so I might try and sneak into it Monday. Maybe
yeah,
sneak in to see it Monday, but it's tough at the pub. I'm trying to spend a lot of time with her.
yeah. It is. I saw it like the day after we recorded our last episode of the podcast, and it is very good. It's definitely a unique take on Batman. They mix a lot of different things. It's a little bit Long Halloween. It's a little bit year one slash year two Batman. He's definitely early in his career. Um, it's good. It's good. There's a lot going on. There's some action sequences that like some of the movie is like very like I don't know.
I love how
There's
it's
some
shot from what I've seen in the trailer.
like camera work
Yeah.
wise, one of the most beautiful, maybe the one of the best looking superhero movies I've ever seen. It's top notch.
Have you seen
It
Moon Knight
is.
yet? Oh no, you watch everything when it finally finishes and comes out, don't
I
you?
usually any of the Marvel stuff like that I wait till like the full season's out and then I binge it in
Oh,
like a day or two. Yeah.
Moon Knight is damn good, and just like you were saying with the Batman, the way Moon Knight is shot.
I've heard Oscar Isaac's accent is dreadful.
I wouldn't know, right? Some people have been saying he's got like a Dick Van Dyke style, like Joe Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins.
Oh, yeah, Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I'm British. Yeah. But like he's no, it's nowhere near as bad as that. But like, he's like, oh my name's Stephen. I work in the gift shop. Like, oh, please don't hurt me. Like, oh no, please don't.
Okay, yeah.
I don't sleep very well. So he's kind of like that, and then he plays. Then he uses a different accent without getting into spoilers. For people who might not know a lot about Moon Knight. Moon Knight, a freaking dope Marvel character, by the way. Also a Vengeance Paladin, most certainly a Vengeance Paladin. But yes, he's dope. And the way they do his god Khonshu, because Moon Knight is the fist of Khonshu. He is Khonshu's avatar of justice on the.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the god possesses them and gives them like additional power and makes them become this kind of enactor of their own justice kind of thing.
He's an avatar, like he's literally an avatar, and he's
Yeah.
he can summon this like ceremonial armor that comes on him, like he like can summon the Moon Knight suit on him, and like when
Yeah.
he does, it looks like he's being mummified by it. It's
That's really cool.
sick. It's sick. Sorry, we've taken a drastic detour there, but both the Batman and Moon Knight are sick, and you should watch them. Get your D&D inspiration.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To be fair, after seeing this one, I'm now more like, would I just play like take the fighting style for the unarmed fighting thing, so I get D8s on my fists, and then just play like a Vengeance Paladin, and it'd be really really cool.
Vengeance.
I am Vengeance. I will say there's some really stellar combat in this one, and it's not like some of the combat in some of the Batman movies. Like if you look at Batman vs Superman, not a movie I'm crazy about. I have a lot of criticisms with it. But that scene where Batman fights all the guys in the room and he like grapples the box and knocks it into your man's face.
Like, as if I just look at the fighting in it, I'm okay. If I don't look at who's performing the moves, I'm okay. Because Batman is killing people in that fight scene. He's killing people.
He punches a dude on the top of the head, and then his head is in the wooden floorboards. I'm sorry, that man is dead from brain trauma.
Like, I just can't deal with a Batman who kills unless that's the whole point of the story. You know, like Batman has finally gone off the edge and he's like a dictator. Those kind of stories, like I can.
Well, I mean,
read.
that movie is kind of meant to draw on Frank Miller very heavily. To see that's the problem as well. Like these interpretations of like the comics, they draw on some aspects and not on others. And I feel like the Frank Miller thing works because Batman is all in those comic books. He is all in. He is like, I'm just going to start an army. I'm going to start my own group of people. I was going to curse. Screw the government. Screw Superman. I work alone. I don't care if we used to be friends. I'll kick the ever-loving crap out of you. Don't care.
You can really tell Frank Miller doesn't like Superman, is it?
Yeah.
You're a Boy Scout that works for the government.
Yeah. Just having him as Batman and Green Arrow, the two non-super guys in the Justice League. Yeah, but like those, so the fight scenes, I really love that fight scene though because it's very reminiscent of the Arkham games, and that he has his grapple hook and he's doing all he's it's really really cool. But these fight scenes are they're way more grounded. Batman is not taking on 10 guys and like did your lights adjust there?
Yeah, it did. It's been like 6 weeks and I still haven't changed that timer. I'll fix them now.
But like in the movie, some of the action sequences, Batman is he's taking on like 12 guys, but he's taking hits at the same time. Like he'll be in the middle of a fight, he'll like punch one or two guys, and someone will come up and hit him in the back of the head with a like a steel pole, and he'll kind of stumble forward and he takes the hit. But all his armor is like bulletproof and stuff like that, but he's still getting like tossed around and knocked over, and people are jumping on him and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's a good movie. I'd have to see it again to really kind of settle my opinions on it, but at the moment I'm kind of riding on a 7 for it out of 10.
Solid, yeah.
It's good. If they want to make this into a trilogy, I think this is a very solid jumping off point where they can tweak a couple things going forward, but it's a very solid jumping off point for what could be a very, very cool trilogy of like early Batman rising up to eventually become the super high-tech, super detective that we all kind of know,
Yeah, I one thing I heard about is it's like the first Batman film in maybe ever that really, really portrays him as the detective.
Yes and no. There's some parts of it where you're like he's doing some proper detective work. He's like the very first scene you see him, he's kind of walking around a crime scene, and he's not saying anything. He's literally walking around and he's just looking at things, and you kind of get the impression, okay, he's like obviously examining the crime scene. He's obviously piecing it together. He takes some like footage that he records and he brings it back to the Batcave and he starts looking at it and like scrolling through it back and forth to analyze certain parts and all this and trying to piece it together. There's definitely some detective work. Some of the stuff with the Riddler and the riddles that he sells is like, well, he's not a good detective. He's just, and this is not me, this is Alana Pierce after watching her review. He's like, that doesn't make him a good detective. He's just good at riddles. He's good at like puzzles. That doesn't mean he's a good detective. Because if you're like in the real world as a real police detective, you're meant to take like a bunch of different factors that don't fit nicely together, but kind of make them fit nicely together and make build a narrative there. Whereas the Riddler is sending him riddles that have definitive answers and like hints on how that you get that answer. It's not exactly police work. It's not exactly investigation work.
I wouldn't really agree with you there, like, at all, to be honest, Connor. Because no? Zodiac, Jack the Ripper...
well, okay.
Like...
They're no, but what I mean is like...
And they only cracked the Zodiac letters, like, last year.
But what I'm saying is, like, it's not... like... If you give someone a puzzle and then they're able to guess the word that this puzzle means, I think it's just a different skill set than walking into a room where someone's been stabbed, seeing a splatter of blood there, trying to judge, like, maybe the person swiped at them here, that's how it ended up over here. You're building, reverse engineering what happened in the room.
I'd argue it's a very similar skill set. It's analytical thinking.
Okay, agree to disagree.
Yeah. Let's talk about D&D.
Let's talk about D&D. Martin, in case you haven't guessed by our very strange, or should I say Sebastian? In case you haven't guessed by our very strange intro, we're going to be talking today about some leaks that happened. Now, this is a few weeks back at this point, but I think it's very interesting because in the coming month that this book will be coming out.
Yeah.
We
now
can
available
talk about
for pre-order, actually. I got an email about this week.
This is Mordenkainens Monsters of the Multiverse. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Monsters of the Multiverse.
There were some leaks. Some pictures ended up online of early copies of the book.
And of course, this was also available from January if you bought the like mega super bundle they did, which included it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, that's right.
You have to pay a little. Do you remember Wizards actually got a lot of flack online for that because they're like, here's a new book, but it's part of a bundle and it's only available in this bundle that's $120. Yeah. So I have to pay 3 times the cost of a regular book, basically, nearly.
If I want to get
this one early. I was a bit like, I see it's a bit cash grabby, Wizards.
Were they the ones that had the white covers on the books and came in a set?
I think so, yeah.
I would never buy them because they would get filthy so goddamn fast.
Yeah,
they would be so grubby and the edges would start to grey and blacken from just people's hands. It'd be awful. You'd hate to look at them after a while. But yes, so this is the book we're talking about. Mordenkainens Monsters of the Multiverse. It is. We talked about it before. I think the purpose of the book mainly is that it is a collection of all the monsters, or at least most of the monsters that have appeared throughout various pre-written adventures by Wizards of the Coast, in supplement books and stuff like that. And they're kind of taking all of them. I think it's the stuff from Volos. It's the stuff from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and then it's all the stuff from, or again, most of the stuff from the pre-written adventure modules and stuff like that, and they're combining them all into one book. So, and I wish they had this years ago, but anyway, so that if you want to start playing D&D now and you want to have all the monsters, you basically only need to buy the monster manual and this one book.
Yeah.
Whereas previously you had to buy the monster manual, Volos, Mordenkainen's, and then about 6 or 7, maybe even more other books to get the vast majority of the monsters and stuff that are available. And to be fair, like, it's the main reason I bought a lot of the adventure modules. We talked about this before, people buy those things just to get access to the magic items and the monsters and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I have most of the pre-written adventures. I've never run any of them. I just want them because there's some cool monsters in them. But yeah, this is it's a really cool idea for a book. I'm glad it's coming now. I think it'll make it way more accessible for new players if they want to come in and they want access to as many monsters as possible, but they don't want to pay hundreds of quid for dozens of books that each only gives them a small snippet of the overall monster library.
I think it's a really good time to do it as well, because I would put money on it that there's a ton of new D&D players because of Legend of Vox Machina. I would be willing to put like good money on it.
Yeah.
That Legend of Vox Machina had a noticeable effect on the uptake in D&D players, because it did really, and it's still doing really, really well on Amazon. And like, even if you just watch, like, me and you always mention, because we're suckers for trash YouTube, so but like the reaction channels, it's making its way around all the reaction channels now.
Yeah.
And they're all, it's all everything, like every time we've watched, it's all been super well received. So putting out a book like this now, sort of a couple months after that's ended, and everyone's kind of had the time to digest it and kind of go, hey, do you know, maybe I do want to play D&D. And like, okay, what do I need to get if I want to play D&D? Which we actually have a video about, which is slightly out of date now, but still good. But like, you can just get you can just get Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monsters of the Multiverse, and the Monster Manual. 4 books, you're golden.
Yeah, you don't even need those 4 books. Like, if you're a player, you kind of just need the Player's Handbook. If you're going to be a DM, you don't even 100% necessarily need the Dungeon Master's Guide. I personally think there's some really helpful information in there, but I think you can find a lot of the base stuff online. Or if you've even played other tabletop games, you could figure out how to be a Dungeon Master for D&D. Like.
Yeah, I know. I guess I just like having the collection of, Player's Handbook.
Oh, same. Absolutely. Gavin has that updated one with the covers, the black covers, and I really, really want it. But the thing is, because what once was a red Player's Handbook has been left in the sun a number of times and stuff like that, and it's now pink. It's just faded, all the colors washed out of it. I could do it updating my 3 core books because they're worn down from all the use we got of them.
I'd love to eventually like get the 3-4 core books that we have, like Monsters Manual, Player Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, whatever else, and then have them, like, just get them like rebound in like leather, so they're like big old school tomes.
Ooh, that could be kind of cool.
And then on the spine just have a symbol denotating which book it is. So if it's the Monster Manual, it's like 2 M's crossing. If it's Player's Handbook, it's like something like,
that's a serious idea.
That would be really cool. That would be really, really cool.
So one other thing that so obviously that's the kind of main reason behind Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. The other reason, or the big thing that's in it and takes up a large amount of it, is that pretty much every race, or a lot of the races, are getting a lot of changes made to them and how they function, how they are structured. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Like, it's kind of it's rattling and kind of changing some of the core foundations of how races work in 5th edition in some cases. Some of them are, like we said before the podcast started, some of them are just flat out buffs. Some races are going from
better. They're just straight up better.
They're just straight up better. It's not even like they're tweaking them for balance reasons. It's like, no, they're just better all around, and it's really, really cool.
You can really see the experience they've gained from like the 7 years we've had 5e now, and all of the play testing and all of the new ways they do stuff like that. You can really, really tell. And like, sorry, go on.
something I want to say there a second ago
Yeah.
when you were talking about why they're releasing this book now. I think another thing is that I think we're coming to the end of the cycle that could be considered 5.0
Mm.
D&D, and we're maybe starting to enter the phase because they've talked about it in the stream,
5.5.
did it a while back. 5.5, yeah, we might be heading towards that. Taking fifth edition, it won't be a true sixth edition, I don't think. But we're heading.
As far as I'm aware, they are intending to be. They're intending to in 2020. It's either 2020. I think it's 2024 is when we're going to get like sixth edition or whatever the next. Whether it's going to be 5.5 or 6, we're going to get that. They've announced we are getting that in 2024.
Yeah, and I think we're probably entering what because we've gotten so much now, and they're making a lot of big changes to the core stuff and how races work, how classes work. You can see that, like when you look at something like Tasha's versus the player's handbook, Tasha's has some repeating patterns and trends when it comes to abilities, such as like basing an ability that you would maybe use a number of times. You can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier per long rest. That's a recurring thing on a lot of class and racial abilities and stuff like that. So we're kind of entering a bit of a new phase where they're revamping a lot of stuff. I'm hoping they do it over most of the stuff to kind of bring out. There's some stuff in Xanathars which I think are Xanathars has some amazing subclasses, but some of the abilities Xanathars has are a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not.
I know exactly which subclass you're on about as well.
Yes, obviously it's the samurai, Martin.
Yeah.
No, it's an arcane archer. But well, not just that, but I mean, like samurai is another one because samurai can do the whole thing where it's based on their wisdom modifier. They can do the thing where they use a bonus action to get advantage on all their attacks for the turn, and they get temp HP equal to.
They get barb resistances as well for that, I think, don't they?
Maybe at later levels, not initially, but
that might be the UA.
It's advantage on all your attacks plus a bump in temp HP, and they can do that a number of times equal to wisdom modifier. I think again, changing that to number of times per proficiency bonus would be good. So that's, I think we're kind of entering a slightly newer phase of 5th edition. I don't know if this is what is intended to be the 5.5, or like you said in 23, will that be the true 5.5, or will that be a brand new 6th or something like that? But I think we're kind of heading that direction. And we're kind of entering this new field. So it kind of makes sense with all that we're going to get a lot of updates to the races and how they function and how they're structured. You and I believe have the same Reddit article open which compiles a lot of this. If anyone wants to kind of like open this while they're listening to the podcast and read along with us, we have it's a Reddit article. It is a compilation of race changes from the Monsters of the Multiverse leaks. It's really comprehensive. There's a lot of really good information here. We're going to go through it now.
And credit to u/King Jackal for posting it 3 months ago. And it's on the r/D&D leaks subreddit. So if you just look that up, you should be able to find it. It is very, very good, and he even includes a couple of videos. I believe one of them is the Nerd Immersion one. The other one is probably like the Bob World Builder one, I'd imagine, maybe.
Yeah, Nerd Immersion has a couple of videos where he goes through all the changes and stuff like that. And we're going to do the exact same thing now because we're hacks.
Hey! We're going to do the exact same thing, but in a different accent. Here we go.
It's a slightly different accent. Let's do it. So we're going to go through some of the stuff here at the start. Some of the stuff at the start is general changes that have been made. Let's see here.
The edits to start are mostly like edits to his own doc, I think.
I believe so.
So are we starting at the universal changes, I guess?
We'll start at universal changes, yes.
Cool.
So first of all, sub-races. If this is to be believed going forward, sub-races don't exist anymore. Instead, what they're kind of doing is they're doing one of two things. They're either restructuring it in such a way that either a sub-race is now going to be its own independent race, so you won't be picking elf and then wood, high, dark, so on. Instead, you're going to be picking wood elf or elf and then choosing between some options that would make it, or rather, sorry, you might get wood elf, high elf, dark elf as individual races. The other way they are restructuring it, and the Aasimar is an example of this, is they're combining the sub-races into one, and instead of choosing between one of them, you just choose different abilities as you level. So the Aasimar get certain abilities, whether you choose Fallen, Scourge, or what's the other one?
I should really notice. I built so many Aasimar characters.
Guardian, Protector.
That's it.
So whether you choose, when you choose that race at level 1, you select which of their innate abilities you want to have. I believe the protector gets to have a bonus of radiant damage on their spells and attacks.
Yeah.
The scourge has a thing where it
It's like
does
an
damage to
AoE
people
radiant
near it.
burn. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the fallen has I think it's a fear ability plus some extra radiant damage. If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
you grow spectral wings and thing. There's no damage component to it, but it is fear.
Yeah, and I think the wings don't let you fly either.
No,
but,
they're purely for
actually the protector can fly.
the protector can fly. Yes, but the protector manifests like wings and basically like lights themselves on fire. No, is that the protector or the scourge?
That's the scourge.
But I think the scourge is the one that flies. No.
No, the protector flies and he flies and does the extra radiant damage. The scourge does the AoE thing around them.
Yes.
Where they also take the damage, but
you have resistance to radiant damage, so people take twice as much damage as you. That's no. I'm a fan of that. It's cool. I don't mind like collapsing stuff down. I wouldn't mind if they did that to fighter and basically made every base fighter a battle master. That'd be pretty sick.
That's I mean like changes to classes. I think changes to races. I don't think impact as much because if we're looking at like a cascade kind of graph of like which things make the most impact to how you play, it definitely goes class, then race, then background. Maybe they're editing upwards. They're also making some pretty big changes to backgrounds recently, where they're kind of almost pairing in feats and stuff. Yeah, which is interesting.
I believe that's the intended thing going forward as well. Is that's how it's going to be? They're going to do that more, where your background will get you a feat, and then you will have the option at later levels. If you want to invest in that again one more time, that will give you an even better version of the feat or additional abilities. It's you can see a lot of that in our episode on the Heroes of Kryn UA that we did. I think like 30 weeks ago, maybe now.
And also the Strixhaven one as well. There's some feats in Strixhaven that are like that do some similar kind of building on previous feats to get higher level feats kind of thing.
They're like specifically tied to the 4 houses, I think, aren't they?
They are, yeah. There's like the initiate of each house, and then there's the scribe or something, whatever the higher level is.
That's the book I've read the least out of every D&D book, so I'm not I'm not the biggest expert.
So that's how they're kind of restructuring sub races, or rather not just out with them, and instead they're kind of just going ahead with straight up race that you pick as you start.
Yeah.
Again, not really a problem with that. Some of these actually end up being way more powerful as a result. For example, we'll get to it, but Duergar have gone from being like one of the, but I would imagine they're going to be picked so often now, because Duergar like were previously quite weak. They had some sensitivity and they had these certain things but not other things, and now they just get a whole mess of stuff in this update that is going to make them a very, very powerful race to choose. We have ability score increases. This is a thing we've talked about multiple times before, but with a little bit of an addendum to it. So whereas previously you would get plus based on whatever race you pick, you now get to choose a +2 in one score and a +1 in another. We knew that already, but now you can also pick a +1 in 3 separate scores.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Like it's, I don't know if it's just me, but the +1 in 3 separate scores is never really something I go for. Like
I could see it being a thing if I had, depends how I roll my stats, but if I roll my stats and I have like, obviously if you have a lot of odd numbers,
if
you want to
like
get those.
A 14, a 15, and a 17.
More like a 13, a 15, and a 17, but yes.
Sorry, yeah, a 13, a 15, and a 17.
14 is an even number, man. Even numbers, no, I'm not going to mess. But yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, if you get like a bunch of like odd numbers, like a bunch of like 3 + 1s can be really, really helpful to getting 3 separate stats, another +1 on their modifier, So again, that's just a slight addendum to something we'd already known for a while, is that we're doing the +2 +1. Having the +1 +1 +1 is also pretty handy as well.
Yes, it is.
Languages are no longer tied to races. Instead, you just learn 2 of your choice, plus whatever you get from like feats and backgrounds and stuff like that. This is pretty cool because I mean, realistically, I know D&D is like all elves have common and elvish and stuff like that, but like there's a lot of elves even in like Forgotten Realms and stuff who have grown up in Waterdeep or grown up in like other places where maybe they don't know elvish. They don't know their kind of like mother language because they never grew up around elves. They just It makes sense why you would have a situation like that, where like I want to be an elf, but I'm an elf raised by dwarves, so I speak dwarvish and gnomish in common, and like I think it makes sense. Something here. I think we knew this already.
Yeah, I think this one we knew already.
Yeah, so speed. Walking speeds, which were previously 25, mostly for your small races like gnomes and kobolds, I think, as well,
Mm-hmm.
and halflings, are now all getting buffed to 30. So 30 is the minimum walking speed you'll have. You'll no longer have a lower walking speed for having picked a small race and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as that as well, Come on, Connor, get it together.
In
Um,
addition,
in addition, any special speeds you have, like flying, swimming, and climbing, now equal your walking speed. This is both good and bad, because on the one hand, it's really good because if
mm-hmm.
you are like a monk or you pick the mobile feat, that means you're getting a bonus not only to your walking speed but to your swimming or climbing or flying speed as well. However, if you're a race whose like main thing that they do is fly, such as an Aarakocra, and previously you had 50 feet of fly speed at level 1, you don't have that anymore. You have 30 feet.
Yeah.
Not great.
You can
And like
still
really that's the one
always
thing.
fly though. Like you can still always
Yeah.
fly. like
You know,
like
that's true. That's true. It's just
I'm just gonna play this real small violin for all the Arakakra players there, you know. Oh no, you lost 20 feet of fly speed.
I just think, and to be fair, if you ever played like, and you could, because even in like early, before they started making the changes with the ASIs or the ability scores and stuff, Eric Okra had plus to Dex and plus to Wisdom, meaning they made really good monks, meaning they had fly speeds of like 100 and something feet after not very long.
Step
So
1, play Arakakra monk. Step 2, build a sniper rifle.
yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's good. I think there's a mixed stuff there. I just think we'll get onto it in a bit, but I think we talked about this last week, but I think we talked about it like literally just before hitting the record button. There's very little reason to choose one over the other when it comes to Aarakocra and Owlin.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we were
Especially if they're
talking
making this change to it now. I think the only difference is that Owlin get a stealth proficiency because Owl's wings are like naturally designed to not
Silent
ignore us, which
predators,
is really
yeah.
really cool. It's a really cool thing. Look him up. Watch I don't know, David Attenborough documentary or something.
Just do that
But
anyway. He's really good.
he's really great. So they get that, and then I think the Aarakocra get like claws, so D4 plus strength
Yes.
for claws. That's like the only difference between the two of them. Other than that, they're now exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like the only difference is, do you want to be slightly more stealthy, or do you want to have claws that you realistically, most of the races that have claw attacks don't often use them because it's like, well, I have swords that do more just naturally, so
I've a sword that lights demons on fire when it touches it, but I guess I'll slap this guy with my
yeah,
fingernails.
exactly, yeah. So moving on. Some races are getting size changes as well, or rather, the option to have size changes. Some races that have been changed, they can be both medium and small. That's very cool. Um, some races that have the innate spellcasting ability, any trait that lets you cast a spell now allows you to cast a spell using any spell slots you have. I think that was a rule that I've always assumed, but recently they've been making clarifications on that, especially when it comes to
Multiclassing.
feats and other things and multiclassing. Yes, exactly. Like if you know the spell, you can pretty much use any spell slot you have.
Yeah.
Even if it's like once a day, I can cast this ability as a racial thing. That would still count as you knowing the spell. Therefore, you can still cast it if you have additional spell slots. This is a recurring trend we're seeing more and more. But you also get to decide with the innate spellcasting, which is previously would have been locked to a specific ability score. For example, Gitzerai have certain spells they can cast, and that is tied to wisdom. But now, going forward, they can choose whether it's wisdom, intelligence, or charisma they want to use in order to bring. So if you want to play a Gitzerai sorcerer, for example, you don't need to worry about having both wisdom and charisma. You can just choose charisma for everything, and it makes more sense. It's more concise. Oh yes. Short rest traits.
This is big. I think this is big.
This is big. This is a big buff all around. All traits that refresh on a short rest have been changed. They can now be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per short or per long rest. So instead of once per like maybe 2, maybe 3 times a day if you take a couple of short rests, have now been used to at a max 6 times a day when you level up.
Well,
You're making faces, Martin. Why are you making faces?
1 second. All traits that refreshed on a short rest have been changed. They can now be used. Oh, racial. This is to do with your racial traits, right? Or
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to be like, can I action search 4 times a day now?
No, you cannot. Don't even start.
Oh god, that would have been so great.
You chancer. Um, so, up next we have natural weapons. Natural weapons that dealt a D4 plus strength and now deal a D6 plus
Good.
strength. That actually kind of makes the Air of Croca a little bit better. And that, again, if you really want to claw someone's eyes out, but that's your own choice. Also, the term natural weapon is no longer used. Instead, these now count as unarmed strikes going forward.
Nice.
Which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think of the wording of this. I remember when
They don't count as weapon attacks.
I think they do.
They don't. Go to Jeremy Crawford's Twitter.
I've been to Jeremy Crawford's Twitter.
They don't
sir.
count. They don't count because someone asked him about smiting on fist strikes, and he said no.
Yeah. Oh no, sir. No. Oh my God. I'm pretty sure I have this saved as an image because I was like, that's good to know.
Please do.
Hold up now. Hold up. I could be okay. Look, if I'm wrong, but I'm 90% sure.
Oh no, I look like an ass now if I'm wrong, as well, because I was so like, no, you're wrong.
Let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Neither one of us is an ass if we're wrong. We just misremembered something from the internet. Everyone does it 50 times a day, every single day of their life.
I think I remember it being like a really confusing clarification he gave on it, where someone was like, oh, like, our fists is an unarmed strike a melee weapon attack, and he's like, it is a melee weapon attack, and then someone was like, oh, so you can smite on unarmed strikes then, and he was like, no, you can't.
Yes, okay, I have it here. So the person said, I understand what you're saying, but I think principles using. Could you easily say, okay? He says, an unarmed. This is what the person asking the question says. An unarmed strike isn't a weapon attack. It is therefore a spell attack, ? Which I don't know where your man's going with that. And then Jeremy Crawford says, an unarmed strike is a weapon attack. An unarmed strike is a weapon attack because the rule of unarmed strikes says they're weapon attacks. Okay. But then the follow-up after that said, unarmed strikes are melee weapon attacks, and they don't work with Divine Smite, which requires a weapon. This is very fucking confusing.
I assume the rationale behind that is because the only way I could rationalize that restriction on it, if I had to justify that to my players, like if I had to justify that logic to my players, I'd be like, the idea of Divine Smite, I suppose, is you are channeling your godly power into an instrument with which to smite someone, I guess. And like the weapon is a conduit for your divine power that naturally resides in you. But I would argue then, why can't I channel that into the gauntlet of my suit of armor?
Okay, I actually have Divine Smite open here.
Yeah. We're going way off topic again, but this has been a thing we've been talking about for literally 3 years.
Divine Smite, second level. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can expend 1 spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target, in addition to the weapon's damage. See, this wording is a little bit hinky here. Because it says when you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack. Now Crawford confirms that an unarmed strike is a weapon attack.
Melee weapon attack, yeah.
Unarmed strikes are melee weapon attacks. He says that here on January 23rd, 2019 at 10:21 p.m. So it is a melee weapon attack. But then the follow-up says, in the same sentence, it says you can expend 1 spell slot to do radiant damage in addition to the weapon's damage. So
it has to be. But like I would.
Yeah.
There has to be a thing you're holding, basically. But then I would be like, okay, like I'm a paladin. I wear heavy armor. My fist is covered in steel. Like, I'm going to channel a smite into the metal plates around my hand, and I'm going to break this man's nose.
Yeah,
that would be my argument against Jeremy Crawford. There would be like, a gauntlet is a goddamn weapon, and if you don't think it is, go watch the Red Viper versus the Mountain again.
Actually, this actually explains why the two of us had conflicting information here. Because in one tweet, Crawford says an unarmed strike is a weapon attack because the rule on unarmed strike says they are weapon attacks.
They're weapon attacks,
but in a separate tweet, he says unarmed strikes are melee weapon attacks, and they don't work with Divine Smite, which requires a weapon.
Yeah.
So that perfectly explains why the two of us had very different ideas about what was happening there.
And neither of us is an ass.
Neither of us is an ass. Because we're both right. Because you said it didn't work at Smites, and I said that they are weapon attacks. But we're actually technically about right. Look at us, we're heroes.
Yeah. We were individual parts of the same two tweet.
Yeah. unfortunate because nothing is cooler to me than I would just rule. I don't care. I don't care.
You're a
Martin. I don't
DM.
care.
They tell you to
I'm a
make your own
DM.
rules.
Yeah, they're more like guidelines.
Yeah. Like the Pirate's Code.
Just throwing this out there. You ever play a my game and you want to play a paladin that just punches people with smites? You absolutely can. No questions asked.
Be careful, bro. I'll bring out Bruce Lee.
Fine, I'll leave you off. I don't care.
Oh.
You bring up Bruce Lee. Here's 10 Tarasques. Go nuts. Anyway, moving on. I do want to get through these because there's still some more, and we want to get to some of the specific races here.
Yeah.
We will not get to all the races, but we'll get to some of the general stuff.
We'll do our best to cover the coolest stuff that we can find.
Yes.
But also, we gave you the name of the article if you want to go through it in full depth yourself. It's right there. It's laid out really, really well by the guy who posted it.
Absolutely. So the next one we have here is condition resistance. So traits that give you advantage on certain conditions now specify that they give you advantage on avoiding or ending. This is kind of specific for dwarves in this period. Dwarves have advantage on poison saves. That means they have advantage on the initial save to resist the poison, and then if you fail that and get poisoned, the subsequent saves you have to then overcome it on your turns afterwards, you also have advantage on.
Yes.
Again, I would have ruled it this way, but the clarification is nice. Let me see here now. Magical resistance trait. Oh yes, this is interesting. This is a bit of a debuff on some things. Traits that give you advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects now only apply to spells. Ooh. So if you're using a racial feature or a class feature or something that is magical, and then you're trying to make a save against it, it only counts against the actual spells you cast that are listed as actual spells.
Yeah.
Level for healing slash damage. Traits that use traits that use your level in a formula for damage or healing no longer do so. Instead, using some other proficiency bonus based value. So I'm trying to think. I guess this is racial stuff we're talking about now, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
The old Aasimar one, I think maybe.
Oh, Aasimar have that ability where they can touch a person as an action.
That you're thinking of Healing Hands. I meant the one where they did, like the Scourge one, where you basically just become like radioactive with radiant energy and you burn people. That I think that used to do like, it was like something plus. No, oh no, sorry. I know exactly what I'm thinking of here. The easiest example of that would be Second Wind for the fighter, 1d10 plus fighter level for.
That's a fighter. That's a class thing though.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I keep forgetting these are all racial feats. God damn it, Martin.
So this is you can touch a creature and cause or gain number of hit points equal to your level as the healing hands thing. Yeah.
Okay. Once you use the trait, like a D4 or something.
So I guess is this like maybe instead you heals a number? I guess they'll probably rejig that. Maybe there's actually do you know what?
They'll probably
looking at the actual. Asimar is going to be the first one on the top of the list here.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here. The healing hands hit points. The hit points regained from this trait have been changed from your level to a number of D4s equal to your proficiency modifier.
That's really good.
That's quite nice. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. So instead of just getting a one-off, you get 5, 8, 17 HP.
I think it should work out to the same as well, because at 20th level it'd be 20, and then now that that's changed, you get, by the time you get to level 20, your proficiency is 5, so that would be 5 D4s, which would be 20.
Proficiency is 6 by that level.
Oh, shite. Yeah, it's actually more.
So it's going to be 24 max, so slightly higher on the value, which makes that's
slightly
a good
higher,
way to do it.
But you also then have a chance to roll 5 1s.
Yeah, or you can just get you likely end up somewhere in the middle, so it's a good middle ground kind of thing. That's not a bad change at all. But we'll say it's going to be stuff like that. So it's going to be some metric that involves your proficiency bonus number of times or number of D4s, so something like that. Animal / monster communication. Traits like Friends of the Sea, which I think is either a Triton or a Sea Elf ability. Sea Elf.
Yeah.
That allow you to communicate with animals / other things. Now specify creature types that you can communicate with. Okay, interesting.
Happy about that, to be honest.
Yeah, you have a sea elf in your group.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has he used his Friends of the Sea thing a lot?
I think he might have used it once.
Okay.
We're level 13, by the way. No, I think maybe when we were actually did our arc in his hometown where we were underwater all the time. I think he
Yeah.
may have used it to like communicate with some fish or some manatees. But
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I think he's either never used it or only used it once and used it to communicate to fish. And of course, I made the fish dumb as hell.
Well, I mean, they're fish.
Yes.
Um, Interesting. Okay. Next up, we have non-player handbook spells. So races with the ability to cast spells that were not from the player's handbook have had these spells replaced. I get why this is a thing. I also hate it.
Because you're like an
because because I exactly because I like Ganassi. They're one of my favorite races in concept, and honestly, with the improvements now, maybe all around. But yeah, some of the abilities or some of the spells they can cast innately. Like for example, if you look at Volo's guide, right, the Triton can cast, I think it's Wall of Water or something like that. But the spell isn't listed in that book or in the player's handbook. It's maybe not Wall of
Elemental
Water.
Evil, maybe?
I can't remember where it appears exactly, but it is the reason I'm mentioning it, right? Come on, Triton. Here we go. They can cast a spell. There's a little appendix thing that appears next to it that gives you the spell. Yes, Wall of Water. Yeah, but Wall of Water does not appear.
That's a good spell too.
It is a good spell, but it doesn't appear in the standard player's handbook. So there's a little window in Volo's guide, a little additional appendix there that gives you the description of the spell, so that even if you don't own like any of the books that it might be in, you only need to have what's here in front of you, which I think works fine. I get why they don't want to maybe do that all the time, but I also don't feel like it's the worst thing in the world if like if you really want to give a race a spell they can cast innately, and you don't want to, you don't want to compromise, give them a spell from Tasha's or from whatever, and just throw in the appendix to it. As long as the player has it in the book that it's in, I don't feel like that's an issue. But look, I also get why they want to keep everything to the core rules and not expand on it, because maybe some players have a problem with the spells that appear in the Elemental Evil appendix or something like that.
Yeah.
Or so I suppose I should probably say Xanathars, because I think they all got ported to Xanathars afterwards.
I believe so, yeah. I think wasn't it it was the Skag Sword Coast Adventures guide, and
It was Sword
Elemental
Coast
Evil.
and Elemental Evil got ported over with some additional spells on top. Then for Xanathars. Yeah, I get that. I'll get over it. And then we have.
We can probably do the last 2 points together there.
Yeah, true, actually, yeah. So this ability or this thing counts for both weapon and armor proficiencies. Traits that give you proficiencies in specific weapons have been removed. It seems they have been removed, reworked into benefits that give you one or more weapon/tool proficiencies of your choice, which I kind of like. In this case, we have elves. A lot of, obviously, like I think wood elves get or all elves get longsword, short sword, longbow, shortbow.
Yep.
So taking that away means they don't have those, but they'll just get a thing that says, "Hey, pick 2 weapons or pick 2 tools you like." Kind of nice, because maybe you don't want to be an elf that is using a bow or using a short sword. Maybe.
Like if I'm an elf ranger and I use 2 long swords and a longbow, I don't give a crap about having a short sword proficiency or short bow proficiency because I don't use them. Give me something I can use.
Yep. Yeah, it's good for preventing overlap, because if you pick, like I said, a ranger, you're already going to have all your martial weapon proficiencies anyway. Why not then use those 2 proficiencies to get like alchemy tools and herbalism tools, so you can be like a potion brewer on the side? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And the same applies for armor then. So previously dwarves would have gotten proficiency in, I think was it all dwarves or was it just mountain dwarves? One of the dwarves got proficiency in like
heavy armor.
Medium armor.
Yeah. Was it not
Was
heavy?
it heavy?
Is it? I think it might have been the mountain dwarf, because wasn't the mountain dwarf the go-to tank choice? Like if you wanted to be that big dirty tank in early 5e, you picked a mountain dwarf because they got +2 con, +2 strength.
I'm gonna check for you now.
And I think they got marked because with those you'd also get the dwarven weapon training, which is hammers, axes, and I want to say picks.
It is. Oh yes, I remember the trade-off. Hill dwarves get the additional health; they get a +1 to the health, and then mountain dwarves get proficiency in light and medium armor.
That's it.
Yeah. So one is harder to hit. One gets a little bit more health in case they get hit. Yeah. So that's all the kind of general stuff. We're going to get into a little bit more now. Actually, there is a thing here about Fey ancestry.
Yes.
The magical sleep immunity of this trait has been moved to the trance trait that elves have. So I think, yes, you still
Makes sense.
have the ability to resist magical sleep, but it's just part of the trance thing
Yeah.
instead. Goblinoids, goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears have all gained this new version of the trait. So they
Ooh.
are now all considered Fey creatures,
Yeah.
which is interesting. So Trent, as mentioned above, this trait now grants immunity to magical slumber. I know why I said slumber there. Just say sleep. It is now more clearly specified that you are conscious while taking a long rest. So if you are an elf, you have to sleep for your normal 4 hours, and then but you are like sitting up, meditating and
Yeah.
conscious, but you are just inactive. You're just sitting there quietly, but you are awake. Which means you can technically keep watch while all of your
Yes,
human
you can.
and dwarf friends sleep. When you now finish a long rest, this trait allows you to gain two proficiencies that you don't have. Each must be of a weapon or tool of your choice. It's in the player's handbook. These proficiencies last until the end of your next long rest. That's an interesting one.
That's real strong.
As if elves weren't already good enough. Like
That's
now you have this as well. Like
that's like a pared down version of, do you know, the bard subclass where you're basically a human Ouija board?
yes,
I
yeah.
think it's College of the Spirits, maybe I think it's called. But you have I think there's a thing in College of the Spirits where every time you take a short rest, you can pick a different tool proficiency.
That's also in the. It's not called the Reaper. What's it called?
The
Rogue.
the Phantom.
The Phantom. The Phantom
Sorry,
Rogue
that's
also
what
gets that as well.
that's what I'm thinking of. That's it.
Oh, is that, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, because when I ran that one shot, I remember Owen picked the Phantom Rogue, and he could do that.
Yes.
Jesus, Phantom is really good. If you're thinking about making a rogue, Phantom is awesome.
Phantom's class. I was thinking about that drow I was telling you about a while ago. I was thinking about an idea where I would multi-class with that. There's an ability in Dishonored where you can see two guards and you can link them by this invisible thing that only you can see. And whatever you do to one happens to the other. So if you shoot one of them in the foot, both of them will grab their foot in pain. But if you like drop down on, it's a good way to clear a room because if you link 3 or 4 guys, drop down on one, execute, and then all of them just drop dead. It's really cool.
It's sympathy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of like this thing. You know, you're almost pairing the Phantom's ability to do damage to one person and then necrotic damage to someone within 30 feet.
Yeah.
It's kind of doubles up on that. So let's get into some of the races.
Yes.
First off, look, these guys. We talked about them already. The Aarakocra. So walking speed is now 30. Previously, that was 25. Aarakocra had a walking speed increase there, but at the cost of a decrease elsewhere. They now have the 30 feet of fly speed, which is it's not 30 feet solid. It's whatever their walking speed is.
Yeah.
It's that. So if you're a monk and your walking speed is increasing gradually as you level, your fly speed as an Aarakocra would also increase as well.
Also barbarian, if you want to make like the buffest seagull.
True, actually, yeah. If you want to play about, oh my god.
Oh, Aarakocra barbarian would be sick. You're literally just Warhawk from fucking. Oh, I just swore already. You're literally just Warhawk from DC. That's sick. Oh man. Oh god, that would be cool. That would be really cool.
That's really cool. Also, your talons, like you mentioned, are now a D6 plus strength. This goes
man,
more
Aarakocra Barb is looking pretty good actually.
Alright. You can just play. Is it what's it? Hawkman?
Hawkman, yeah. Hawkman.
Yeah,
Hawkman
just
is
take a mace and just be like going around battering people as a barb.
Two-handed maul.
Really good.
Yeah. Hawkman is Warhawk's dad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Warhawk is because he's in that episode of the
of
Batman Beyond.
I think it depends. Because we're getting off topic here, but in that specific episode of Batman Beyond, Warhawk is the child of John Stewart Green Lantern and Shiara, Hawk Girl.
Okay,
or Hawk Woman, depending on this here. But in other ones, I think it's like Hawkman and Hawkwoman Hawkman and Hawkgirl have a child, and that's Warhawk, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Interesting.
Actually, no, I think Warhawk might just be Green Lantern and Shiara. It's not important to D&D. It's fine.
It's not. What is important is that Batman Beyond is awesome.
And Aarakocra get a new ability. Called Windcaller.
Oh, so actually this just makes me look like a fool because I was only given out a while ago that there's no reason to pick the Aarakocra over Owlin anymore. But apparently there is. Because now you have a D6 plus strength instead of a D4, which is nice. And then the Windcaller ability, again, a new trait that lets them cast Gust of Wind once you reach 3rd level. functions similar to the innate spellcasting traits. That's pretty cool. I always like when races get innate spellcasting abilities, because it just means that if you want to play like a regular fighter with no magic, you still get a little bit of magic in there. I like that.
Like what Liam O'Brien does with Orym in this campaign of Critical Role. I love how he flavors everything Orym does in relation to like him jumping or being acrobatic, and like he can cast. He can do. I believe he actually does have Gust as a cantrip, just from being like.
Is it a magic initiate or something?
I think it might be.
It's a background thing.
I think it's a background thing, maybe.
Okay, cool. Up next we have Asimar. We talked about this a while ago. They no longer have sub races.
Yes.
Their build can now be medium or small. We talked about this. Their healing hands is now equal to a number of D4s equal to the proficiency bonus instead of just equal to their level.
Yep.
Presumably that still works once per long rest as well, but still that's pretty cool. At least it means that like when you think about that, it works out almost exactly the same.
That's surely that would be proficiency bonus because of what they said before.
Well, that was on things that work on a short rest. You get a number of times.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
proficiency bonus over a long rest. This has always been long rest.
Yes, it has been. Sorry, you're right.
So this is Celestial Revelation. So instead of a sub-race choice, the three different transformations have now been combined into a single trait. And when you reach third level, you choose which transformation you will have. The transformations can now be entered as a bonus action instead of an action.
That's pretty sick.
That's really cool. I always think Asimar are really cool. And I like that. I always like when the races that I like to get a little bit of love. And Asimar are already good to begin with, but like I think these qualify as some nice little bumps.
I really want to play Asimar now. I like really want to play Asimar now.
What? Let me just double check something here. Use your action, Radiant Soul. Yeah, they were all action previously. Yeah. Now they're bonus action, which is nice. Up next we have Radiant Consumption. Both sources of Radiant.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I thought you were going on to a different part. But yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're right. I've actually skipped one here. Necrotic Shroud no longer affects your allies. So obviously that was a wording issue. It probably says all creatures within range as opposed to creatures of your choice. The extra necrotic damage is now equal to your proficiency modifier. Just checking here, Fallen Asthma, the additional damage. Instant form to defect to last minute each turn. You deal extra necrotic damage to one target when you deal a weapon attack. The extra damage equals. Oh wow! Oh my god! This is okay. This is a little bit of a debuff maybe in this regard.
I thought Necrotic Shroud was just a fear effect, no?
It does have a fear effect. So you transform other creatures within 10 feet of you. So it doesn't specify you choose or friend or foe. Just as other creatures. So that would definitely affect your friends. That continue must succeed a charisma saving throw or become frightened until the end of your next turn. Transformation lasts for a minute or until you end this bonus action. During it, once on each of your turns, you can deal extra necrotic damage to one target that you deal damage to with an attack or spell. The extra damage equals your level, which is disgusting at higher levels because that's just you doing a flat like 20 damage every single turn on top of it. That's insane. This does kind of step on your Fallen Asimar Death Cleric Paladin kind of build.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I didn't intentionally make that. I just thought a Fallen Asimar Death Cleric would be cool.
Yeah. So instead now it's just presumably it's maybe still. I don't know that they want to nerf that a lot. Can you do this multiple times on every hit you do now, or is it still just tied to once per turn or once per, But that's that. So now it's brought down to your proficiency bonus. I would hope that if it's going to be your proficiency bonus in damage, that they would at least say it's on all attacks now, because I feel like that would balance out pretty well, right? You're doing 2 damage early on, but you're doing like an extra 2 damage on both your hits or something like that. I think it could work out okay. It wouldn't be too bad if it was on every hit.
Yep.
Radiant Consumption, which I believe is the Scourge Asimar. Both sources of radiant damage are now equal to your proficiency bonus, and the feature no longer hurts yourself.
That's big.
Yeah, it's I always thought it was kind of just kind of get over it. You're in the middle of this thing. It's designed to also hurt you.
Yeah, like the way I looked at it was like I have inbuilt radiant damage, so I've radiant resistance rather.
Resistance, yeah.
So like I'm taking half the damage I'm pumping up. That's fine. That means I last twice as long as they do.
Yeah. What's it? During the time each creature as you turn, the 20% you takes radiant damage equals to half your level rounded up. It's now equal to proficiency. In addition, once in each of your turns, you can deal extra radiant damage to one target. When you deal damage to them attack or spell, the damage equals your level. So they've changed it. So the area of effect is now equal to your level, and then the extra damage you deal is now equal. Oh, sorry, not your level. The area of effect is equal to proficiency. The attack bonus or damage bonus, I should say, is also equal to your proficiency.
Cool.
And then finally we have Radiant Soul. The gaining fly speed is now equal to your walking speed. The extra radiant damage is now equal to your proficiency bonus. So again, this is probably going to be level in terms of the amount of damage you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, equal to your level for the radiant damage you do there. And previously you would get 30 feet of fly speed while you're in this mode. Now it's just equal to your walking speed, which again works out quite nicely because if you don't want to, it would suck if you were like an Asimar monk and then you're like, I'm gonna fly, and my flying is like half the speed of my by running speed. So that makes a lot more sense. That's kind of cool. Up next we have bugbears. So let's have a look at bugbears here. I like bugbears an awful lot, by the way.
The long boys of the Feywild.
Oh, the long boys of the Feywild. So let's have a comparison here. Creature type clarifies that you are a goblinoid for any prerequisite. This is a thing as well. Yeah, they're kind of doing this thing where they're like, there was something actually I think we skipped it above, but there's some sort of clarification now between whether you're a humanoid race or a fantastical race. I don't see anything in this article that mentions why that would be important.
Okay.
Maybe it's something they're building in for something that's coming down the line. I don't know. So bugbears, they also do this thing where it's like, oh, your creature type is blah. So like this came into effect.
Do you know what it might be? Do you remember? I think it was when it was the one that was basically the Spelljammer UA, and like slime was a race.
Yes.
That might. I think that might be.
Did they also count as oozes?
No.
Something like that.
Maybe actually no, they did. Sorry, they did count as oozes. Yeah.
So that, I mean, they're doing a similar thing here, and I'm pretty sure they did the same thing when it came to fairies in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Fairies were, it's like you are a humanoid, but you also count as fae, which is interesting. If they're doing that for a lot of races, I'd be curious when people start busting out things like Divine Smite or anything that affects particular types of monsters. Will that work? Like, will your allies have to be clear of that, or will you be able to track your allies if they get kidnapped or something? Because I know where all the Fae are, and our fairy ally just got taken. Kind of thing,
yeah, that would be super good. Like, yeah, if you've like a paladin in your party that can do Divine Sense, and then like one of your party is typed as Fiend, Fae, or Undead.
Exactly, yeah. It could be very cool. Next up, the bugbear gets the Fey Ancestry. We talked about that. All the goblinoids are now Fey Ancestry. And so Sneaky is an ability they have. On top of the stealth proficiency, you can now move through. This is really weird to me. On top of the stealth proficiency, you can now move through and stop in a space large enough to fit a small creature without squeezing. So this is kind of like fairies can do this as well. Fairies can like move through tiny gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a bugbear.
But like, isn't like a bugbear like hench? Like.
Oh yeah. Well, I think they're meant to be more like they're strong, but like in the way that like a chimp or an orangutan is strong. They're not very broad, but they have very long, strong limbs. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what they're going for. The bugbears always remind me of like orangutans, just in how lanky they are with the really long arms and stuff. So that's kind of interesting. It's a weird one. Particularly when you think about like
whoa. So I'm building a bugbear assassin.
Okay. Well, actually, hold up a sec, because I think this might be a nerf if I'm not mistaken. This next one. So that's obviously a buff, because previously they just got the stealth proficiency, I believe. Yeah, just stealth proficiency. So this new one is surprise attack. The trait has been reworked. You now deal an additional 2d6 extra damage whenever you attack a creature who has not taken their first turn in combat, right? So that is like the assassin ability almost, but it only works when they haven't yet taken their turn.
Right.
If you look at the way the ability used to be, if you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack on the first turn in combat. Okay, so actually it's a buff. I apologize. So this is a buff, because previously it would have been if you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack on the first turn in combat, the the attack deals extra 2d6 damage. So this means that as long as it doesn't have to be before their first, they don't need to be surprised.
No.
And it doesn't need to be on the very first turn of combat, on your first turn.
It works
as long as that person. Yeah, exactly. As long as the person hasn't acted yet, which technically means if mid-combat someone else new is rolled into the initiative and hasn't taken a turn yet,
or if someone gets stunned before their turn comes up.
Do they still get a turn, but they just count as stunned for that turn? Look, that's a very gritty.
Yeah.
We won't get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a slight buff in that case because you don't have as many qualifiers to have to do this extra 2d6 damage.
Yeah.
Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. So
just because I realize I'm talking an awful lot.
Yeah, no matter. Do you know what? I'll take the next two because the first one is pretty short.
Oh, yeah.
So the next two we got up are Centaur. So for Centaur, hooves, the damage has been increased to 1d6 plus strength, and it's now considered an unarmed attack instead of a natural weapon, which I'd imagine is to get it around Centaur paladins in a similar way. Because if it was a natural weapon, then I think you could smite in it.
That's the thing. I think that's why they're ditching the natural weapon clause, because that was just a couple of follow-up tweets I looked at from Crawford a while ago. I had similar things to natural weapon mentioned there. So I think that's why they're ditching the term.
The survivor ability has been renamed to natural affinity.
I think that just gives you proficiency in survival, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. I don't have that to hand myself.
I'll pull up Centaur here and just have a quick glance.
Thank you, sir. After Centaur, we have the Changeling, which is cool. For size, you can now be medium or small. As a creature type, you are now Fey instead of humanoid, which I like because that's actually closer to the origins of the creature in Irish mythology, which was the fairies would steal your baby and leave you with a fairy child to raise.
Yeah, I like that because it means that you could play someone whose parents are like dwarves or gnomes or something like that, and you could be a size small. But I think, did they also do the thing where they can change to other sizes as part of their change ability?
Shape changer, as mentioned, shape changer, you can now change your size between medium and small when changing shape. Your clothing and equipment still do not change with you, so you hulk in and out of it. Yeah, but
basically. But yeah, you end up with a little crop top of a shirt because you grew too big.
Yeah, so when you change your shape, as part of the shape changer ability given by the changeling lineage or origin, whatever you want to call it, you can choose whether you are a medium or small in that creature, which is dope as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice little. It gives them a bit more flexibility in what they can change into.
Yes.
Just for clarification as well, the survivor ability that you choose one proficiency between animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival.
Yeah.
And I think there are a couple of the races get this. I think perhaps the lizard folk get this, and I think maybe turtle get this as well.
Maybe.
So I think they've all been changed to natural affinity instead of survivor as a name.
Cool.
Up next we have Deep Gnomes,
Smurfneblin.
Smurfneblin, yes.
Smurfneblin.
That's exactly what I said, Martin. I don't know why I corrected it because I said
that's
the
the easy way to say it. Like is all I'm saying. Smurfneblin.
So creature type. This clarifies that you are. Here's the thing as well. So deep gnomes are now a race unto themselves. There's no longer gnomish sub races. You are considered gnome for any prerequisites that requires you to be a gnome. They kind of have that qualifier and all of them. Same things with Durgar. The first thing on the Durgar one is you are now considered a dwarf for any prerequisites that require you to be a dwarf. Yes, it says you are an elf, exactly. So the speed is now 30 feet. I think they always had speed 30 feet. I don't think
didn't gnomes have 25?
I want to say deep gnomes didn't. Why are you telling me that deep gnomes don't exist? D&D Beyond, you liar. Because I'd be looking up just gnome.
Try Smurfneblin.
I know, it's because they're under gnome, and I tried typing deep and then tried typing Smurfneblin.
Honestly, it's easier in Old Norse. In Old Norse, it's Smurfneblin.
Oh, I take it back. No, maybe I remember reading it incorrectly somewhere. It is 25. So yes, now it's 30. Okay. This is very interesting. I don't know what this means, Martin. All right.
Okay.
As in, I don't know what this means on a grander kind of scale. Gift of the God damn it! Gift of the Deep Gnome.
Smurfneblin.
Smurfneblin.
Yeah.
The thing is, I used to be able to say this very well, and for some reason I'm just failing because I'm on camera right now. So gaining an innate spellcasting trait,
Mm-hmm.
sort of a mix between the sort of Swerf Neblin magic feat and a Durgar magic feat. Starting at third level, you get the Disguise Self once per long rest. When you start at fifth level, you get cast non-detection, functions similarly to innate casting features. This is basically the Swerf Neblin magic feat,
Yeah.
which previously only they could take. It was a racial feat. So if this is built into the class now, can you still take that and double up on your uses, or does it just mean that that feat is no longer valid and it'll be removed from like Adventurers League and stuff like that? And instead, you just play this build instead.
By the ethos of the way they've gone with racial stuff in this so far, I would imagine that that feat is gone, and now that's just part of what you get when you pick a Swerf Niblin.
Yeah, interesting because there's a lot of those feats I really really like particularly like
But you
the half
could
orc one.
but like you could only take that as that specific sub race, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, true.
So it's the same.
So
It's the exact same.
yeah, true.
It
True.
just saves you having to waste an ASI to get it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just built in. There was a couple of them though, like I really like that they haven't necessarily incorporated, like the Dragonborn. There's two for the Dragonborn that give you a couple of abilities. One that makes you like a really good barb, it just means your hide is thicker.
Yes,
I think it's called Draconic Hide or
it is
Dragon
called
Hide or something. Like that.
Draconic Hide is the one, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose those are probably still valid for now, but I wonder if maybe we'll see those racial feats because just given out the way things are going with 5e, they're kind of straying away from things that are too racially specific, which I get why. But a lot of those feats are really, really good, and I wonder will they just incorporate them in, or will they change them so they're not necessarily racial or something? I don't know how they'll rework that, but it's interesting to think about.
Going by how the rest of the book is done, I'd imagine they'll just be collapsed into the base. Like we're setting you aside, we're setting deep gnomes aside as their own thing for gnomes. So as part of that, they're getting their Swerf Neblin magic from the get-go.
Yeah. Up next, we have Gnome Cunning, renamed to Gnome Magic Resistance. Only grants you advantage on saving throws against spells. So we talked about this a while ago. Instead of all
spells
saving
and
throws.
magic effects, wasn't it?
I think so. And
Yeah.
now it's I'll just read it here. Actually, one second. Oh no. Oh no, it's not here. Unless I'm going mad. Oh wait. Oh, interesting. This is interesting, Martin, because you had a build for this for a very long time that you were very proud of. I think if you played a gnomish barb,
Yeah, gnome barb and just take out kneecaps. Yeah.
well, like there's that, but I think if you do that, you have advantage on strength and dex.
So barb gets advantage on strength and con. No, strength and dex, because dex from danger sense, like in term, you get advantage on strength checks and saving throws and rage, and then if you pick the gnome, you'd get advantage on all other spell saves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's basically everything bar con you have advantage on the saving throw for, but that's the gnome cunning that appears in the base gnome that we're now maybe kind of getting rid of.
Yeah.
And for the deep gnome, that gnome cunning is now gnomish magic, and it's only advantage on saving throws against spells.
That's still really good. Like that's Mage Slayer.
It's still quite good, but it's not as good as all intelligence, charisma, and wisdom saves, regardless of whether they're monster abilities or anything like that. You know.
That's true. Yeah.
The Storm Camouflage has been reworked into Smurf Neblin Camouflage. I said it right.
You did.
Instead of having advantage on hiding in rocky areas, you can give yourself advantage on stealth checks, proficiency bonus times per long rest. I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
The rocky terrain thing was cool, but it's as someone who played Ranger for his first class many years ago, when Ranger was not improved like it is now, having abilities that are tied to specific regions doesn't really work very well. It's not the best thing because you'll find it's great for the first 3 levels when you're in the forest near the town, and then as soon as the DM's like, now you need to go up into the mountains and fight giants, you're like, well, there's no trees in the mountains, so none of my abilities work.
And now we're in the plane of fire.
And now we're so yeah, exactly. And like I think just giving them a general stealth bonus is actually a lot cooler.
Yeah.
They'd make actually with disguise self and like non-detection.
Yeah, pretty formidable rogues.
Really good rogues, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then advantage on spells and stuff. Yeah, you'd be a really, really good rogue actually with all those kind of abilities built in. Do you want to do Duragar?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So the Duragar are friendly, evil, well, formerly all evil dwarf counterpart. Now just another dude. No dude. Creature type clarifies you are considered a dwarf for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be a dwarf. Your speed has been increased to 30 feet from 25. You no longer have sunlight sensitivity. Big win for all the underground races. Dwarven combat training, tool proficiency, or stone cunning. That's a bit of a bummer, but you can pick stuff like that up in your other stuff.
Well, here's the thing, right? That it's a bit of a bummer because, but those are things now that are considered part of the base dwarves, I think, and they're trying to make, I guess, Duergar more their own thing. And when you read the next three things that come up or whatever it is, you'll understand why they don't get those, and you will not feel sorry for them because they are really beefy now.
So Duergar magic, you can now cast spells while in sunlight. Enlarged use can now be used to reduce yourself as well, which is cool. Receive the innate spellcasting updates mentioned above, and now is where the tank stuff starts coming. Duergar resistance. This trait has been split into two different traits: Dwarven resistance and Psionic fortitude. Dwarven resistance is the same as other dwarves, and now specifies that it gives advantage on avoiding or ending the poison condition on yourself. And Psionic fortitude grants advantage against the charmed and stunned conditions instead of charmed and paralyzed. And as someone who made the mistake of making a spell that is stun for a party member, there are so few things that remove stun.
Yeah. Stun is a really, and like all hits against you because you're incapacitated or crits as well. Stun is not good, like. Or is it?
They're not crits. They have advantage.
Maybe it's advantage. So
I think what you're thinking of is paralyzed.
Is it?
Yeah, because a whole person inflicts the paralyzed effect on someone, and that's why it's an auto crit.
Yes. Okay. But still, I mean, like having resistance on. So wait, you have advantage on poison saves, which is good, same as other dwarves. So even though they do keep that just in a different form.
Yeah.
And then the Psionic Fortitude grants some advantage on charmed and stun effects.
Yes.
Really, the stun effect also makes sense because Duergar have this whole history with Mindflayers.
Yes.
Who can stun you at a distance and stuff. So the fact that they have, so the fact that they have that now actually makes a lot of sense why because the whole thing is that the Duergar eventually were able to overcome the mind control of the Mindflayers and they rose up against them, so it makes sense that they would have resistance against those effects of being charmed, mind controlled, or being stunned from the psionic blast that the Mindflayer does. I want to just check something very quickly on the Duergar. It would seem they've also lost the it doesn't mention it here. I imagine I wonder, do they still have superior dark vision? So even though they've lost sunlight sensitivity, usually those two are paired together. It doesn't mention it here, but I wonder if that means
it doesn't mention it here. So I would tend to lean towards they probably still have it, and it would make sense. It would make sense for them to have it because they do live in the Underdark.
True. Yeah. Actually, one race that isn't mentioned here, and I thought I read it somewhere before, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought it seems like they're dropping sunlight sensitivity entirely, which would mean that Drow also no longer have sunlight sensitivity. Thank God, because I wanted to play a Drow for so goddamn long. But it's so crippling unless you're playing Out of the Abyss to play a Drow because you just disadvantage all the goddamn time.
As far as I'm aware, sunlight sensitivity as a whole is gone.
It's just scrapped. Yeah. Same for Kobolds, big win as well because I have a Kobold character I want to play.
Eladrin, my favorite kind of elves because I played one. Eladrin creature type clarifies again, similarly to all the other sub races that are now standing on their own. You count as the base race for spells that require that. So you count as an elf for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be an elf. Fey ancestry, same changes as we have discussed earlier. Trance, again, same changes as earlier. It clarifies that you are awake during the trance. And also as part of trance now, the trance is where you have your immunity to magical sleep. Fey step, Misty Step can now be used PB times per long rest. You are so lucky we're not in campaign 1 right now, Connor. Dear God. He never grappled my character, or if he did it for a turn until it was my turn, and then I Misty Stepped out of the grapple.
Yeah. Actually, something about the trance as well. It clarifies you can change between the seasons after long rest.
Sorry, I missed that because I assumed it was just going to be the rest. So Fey Step can use PB times per long rest. The fire damage dealt by the summer effect is now equal to proficiency bonus as well, which is cool.
What was it previously?
I think it was your charisma.
Oh yes, it was. This
mod.
was at the time when everything was tied to
Yeah.
ability
Yeah,
scores.
I'm pretty sure it was your charisma mod. Also, you can now choose to use intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for the saving throw of your effects once you reach third level. That's really cool because you get different effects based on your Misty Step, based on the season you pick. For example, I'm pulling this back from when I used to play one now, which is easily at least 4 years now. But I think
It is charisma mod. Yeah, sorry, let's check there.
I think if I remember rightly, I think it's like either the winter or spring one. The effect is like a fear when you winter. You like misty step out and everything around you has to make a save or be afraid. So that's really good. I really like that you can choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for the saving throw that way, because now you can be like. Because like before it was charisma, and that wouldn't have really come into a thing for Eru, because paladin is a charisma based class. That was fine. But if Eru was like a monk, or if he was like a ranger or anything that used like wisdom or int, then it would be a bit of a pain. And might as well do this one out. There's no changes for the fairy.
Fairy, no change. It seems kind of pointless in mentioning it in the article, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really big buff, by the way, for Eladrin, because anything that lets you teleport is a really powerful ability. So the fact that you can do that, here's the thing: the fact you can do that multiple times, and then you can take like the Fey touched thing to get another Misty Step ability, like. You would be popping all around the place. Like,
you can do Nightcrawler.
Full on Nightcrawler, absolutely, yeah. Oh, that'd be really cool if you were like a winter Eladrin, and like so you're Nightcrawler, but you're like all creepy looking, and then you can teleport up and makes people afraid of you. Oh, so good.
Winter Eladrin and go Hexblade.
Yes, let's do it. It's so there. Actually, and the thing is,
and go for the
Are you reading my mind right now?
The Infernal Pact. So that you're.
Oh no, I was gonna say there's an evocation that you can pick, an invocation I should say, where you can teleport as a bonus action to a creature that as long as you're moving to an enemy creature. I have to try and find it now. It's a like warlock.
Cloak of Flies or something like that, is it? No, that's especially fly. Sorry.
That's another one there, but it lets you. I think maybe you have to be Hexblade to take it, and it lets you teleport to a creature, but I think only on the condition you attack the creature or something like that.
I remember Travis used to do this in campaign 2 as a forward.
Which the problem with this is that the names are always so
we've still got quite a few races to go. So still lots of good stuff too.
Oh, this is it, yeah. So when you have to be a Hexblade and you have to be at least 7th level. Sorry, you don't have to be a Hexblade. You just have to have a Hex ability, so either the spell Hex or your subclass Hex ability. Curse creates a temporary bomb to you and a target. It's a bonus action. You can magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target of the curse of your Hex or Warlock feature. To teleport in this way, you must be able to see the cursed target, which means that like you can use. If you need to get close, you use this as many times as you want. If you need to get away, you use all your other teleport abilities. That would be such a good build. That's a proper Dishonored style build where you were teleporting like and blinking all over the place. That's so good. Yeah. Sorry, I got really pumped by that one. Now.
No, it's awesome.
Okay, there is a few I want to get through here. Let's try and do them
because I want to get through.
They all begin. Yes, I want to get through the Ganassi so bad. Okay, so Furbolg.
Yeah.
Furbolg magic receives innate spellcasting upgrades. I'll mention above. Also, the use of the sky self allows you to appear up to 3 feet shorter or taller.
That's big. That's class.
That's big. Yeah. But Furbolg are quite big anyway, so it makes sense why they would be able to appear human-sized or whatever.
Yep.
Hidden step can now be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. What was that previously?
Wisdom bonus.
Was it tied to wisdom?
Wisdom mod, I think so, because they're natural druids for bugs.
Yeah, they are kind of naturally like that. Hidden step. No, it's a short rest.
Oh, okay.
Once per short rest. Actually, sorry, we said this already because it was once per short rest. Now it's proficiency bonus per long rest.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. That's cool though. That's one you can turn invisible until you attack or make or take damage or anything like that.
I think so.
So it means you could be quite good like that. It's quite sneaky as a Furbolg. And then the speech to beast and leaf.
It just changes to specify the creature type you can speak to, which is plants and beasts.
Similar to the ocean thing above for sea elves. Okay, let's get into that. Oh, let's do it. Okay, so
go off, Connor. Go off.
All right, so previously, fire and water ganassi were considerably stronger than earth and air. We now have a much more even playing field, and it's not because air and earth have been buffed up, it's because all of them have been buffed. So, air ganassi can be medium or small now.
Cool.
Their speed is now 35 feet, which kind of makes sense. They're light on their feet, they're quick. They have dark vision, which they previously didn't have.
See, I would call that a feature of wind at your back.
What, speed one?
Yeah, your speed is 35 feet. Wind at your back.
Wind at your back, maybe. Yeah, that'd be a good one. They now have resistance to lightning damage, which I think is really cool because this is something I was thinking about recently, right? Because I wanted to rework them and I wanted to kind of like define the four elements in my world, but I didn't want to... It's really difficult when you get to like the way the game mechanically works and you get to something like air, because air doesn't do a specific damage, maybe bludgeoning if it's a hard gust of wind. But you could do thunder because thunder is just like air sound pressure. It's waves in the air. You can kind of do that. So I kind of started thinking about them being less of like air ganassi, more like sky ganassi.
Or storm ganassi.
Or storm ganassi. So if you take this, you can kind of just... Them having lightning resistance is cool. I rewrote them for my world. Now, I didn't use them terribly much, but I gave them the ability to have resistance to falling damage. Because I thought that made sense. I thought that was kind of cool. It was unique. No one else has that, but I also get lightning damage works as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have mingle
Honestly,
with the winds.
I like the lightning damage more because that'll come up a lot more.
It does come up more. Yeah. I just thought it was a fun
no, it's cool, but just like in terms of usability, the lightning resistance would scale better.
Also, I mean, it's cool now if you want to play like a Storm Sorcerer.
Storm Herald Air Ganassi,
yeah. I was saying Storm Sorcerer, but that works too. So you mingle with the wind. You do not immediately have the ability to cast Levitate. Previously, you did. The feature now lets you cast Shocking Grasp. So they're definitely going more storm, more lightning and sky kind of stuff instead of just strictly air. Once you reach third level, you can cast Featherfall once, which is like, honestly, Featherfall is so useful as like an extraction tool if you're in the castle or the tower of the bad guy and you need to get out fast. Everyone over the ledge, and I will cast Featherfall. It's our get out of jail free card for that kind of stuff. Great spell. And then the fifth level you can cast Levitate. This trait receives innate spellcasting upgrades where you can do it a number of times, or rather, if you know the spell from your racial stuff, you can cast it if you have additional spell slots in your class.
I really don't rate Levitate as a spell.
Levitate is a good spell if you are fighting like orcs or wolves or something that is grounded and you're like, oh, I'm the squishy caster, I'll levitate up 30 feet. They can't get me, but I can be whipping spells down at them. Or like on the rare occasion, I need to get to something on the roof. Other than that, it's not super useful, which is why it always bugs me that... Yeah. It's a
Destructive Wave is 5th level.
Well, no, that's 5th level in your... class.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain is not firing on all cylinders today.
No. Levitate, I think, is 2nd level.
Yeah, sorry. That makes much more sense. I couldn't remember. Like, that's how much I don't like that spell. I couldn't even tell you what actual level it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, it just... Yeah. Previously, Ganassi were just like... Yeah, particularly air, which bugged me because I wanted air. I wanted to be like an air monk, like Avatar style, you know? So previously they only got the levitate spell once per long rest, which is just and they can I presume they can still hold their breath indefinitely, which is just the most fun thing. I've played an Air Ganassi a couple times. The first thing I do every time the game starts is the DM says, "What would you like to do?" And I say, "I stop breathing." And then I don't tell them when I start breathing again, because why would I never not use that? So yeah, that's really cool. Love that. Earth Ganassi also getting a bit of a buff here, so they can be medium or small. They also get dark vision, which kind of makes sense. I imagine Earth Ganassi might live underground an awful lot. They might be comfortable underground. Makes sense to have dark vision. They get a thing called Earth Walk. The trait is now changed a little bit. You now ignore difficult terrain when you use your walking speed on the ground or a floor. Why? What the hell does that mean?
As long as your feet are touching the ground, you use your walk speed rather than, I think, did it used to be Earth Glide?
It says here you can move across difficult... This is the way it used to be. You can move across difficult terrain made of earth or stone without expending extra movement.
Oh, so you ignore difficult terrain caused by earth or stone. They could have phrased it that way.
Yes, but why is it changed now to you ignore difficult terrain when you use your walking speed on the ground or floor? So I guess, do they not want... Oh, I see. Were people maybe climbing walls and acting like Earth Ganassi had a climb speed because they can't be slowed for traveling on a stone wall, if that makes sense?
I'm not sure because I haven't seen any Earth Ganassi. Like the first Earth Ganassi I've seen played in D&D is Ashton in Critical Role. um, for probably good reason. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you can
I'm
move
not
across
too
this
sure.
good terrain. I think maybe that's it, because technically they have a climb speed
Yeah,
if the DM rules that the wall is made of earth or stone and you're climbing that, but you should be moving at
your
half speed
movement
because you
wouldn't be
don't have an
impeded
innate.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe that's why they want to do it. It's a weird, very niche and specific way of saying that, but anyway. So they've reworked Merge with Stone into Mingle with Stone. You do not gain the ability to cast Pass Without a Trace until 5th level. That's fine though. You learn the Blade Ward cantrip, which is kind of cool, and can cast it as a bonus action, proficiency bonus times for rest. So Blade Ward is a terrible cantrip, unless you can cast it as a bonus action, proficiency times for a long rest.
Yeah.
In which case, it's actually pretty awesome. So that makes you really like resilient as a person.
Yeah.
And the trait, oh yeah, so then you get that, and then you just get at 5th level, you just get the ability then to cast
Pass Without a Trace.
Pass Without Trace, which is like the
Such
best
a
part
good
of being
spell.
an Earth Ganassi.
Such a good spell.
It's one of the best spells. One of the best spells. Up next we have Fire Ganassi, again medium or smaller in size. I hate this.
Dark,
I hate this. I hate this.
Dark Vision Shades of Red.
I loved that they saw in Shades of Red with Dark Vision. I loved it. It was so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but I loved it, and it was so cool and so flavorful. And now it's like they see it grey because life isn't worth living.
Jesus.
Just wrecks me.
Anyway, reach into the blaze. Reach to the blaze.
Martin. Anyway, so there's that. We'll move past it. Reach into the blaze. You can now cast. Oh yes, I love this. I'm yo-yoing emotionally at the moment. I don't know what's happening. You can now cast Flame Blade once when you reach 5th level. Super cool. This trait. So wait, is that the only thing you can do?
You can never be bound by ropes again, ever.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. So previously in the last one they mentioned Merge with Stone is now Mingle with Stone, and that includes both the Blade Ward and the Pass Without a Trace ability. This is just called Reach to the Blaze, which means you can just cast Blade or Flame Blade once when you reach 5th level. That must be in addition to the other fire spells you can cast, which are Produce Flame at 3rd and then Burning Hands once. Oh, sorry, Produce Flame naturally and then Burning Hands once you reach 3rd level.
Yeah.
So this must be the 5th level once of that. That's pretty cool. Flame Blade is also an awesome spell, by the way. So the fact that you can just like summon a fiery blade out of nowhere, amazing.
Sick.
And Water Ganassi. Medium or small, the speed. Oh, yeah, the swimming speed is now equal to the walking speed. We kind of knew that anyway.
Yep.
Dark Vision, now they have Dark Vision. Kind of makes sense if you're swimming in deep waters and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you live at the bottom of the sea, you need Dark Vision. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere.
They have Call to the Wave. Shape Water has been. Oh, yeah, that's right. Shape Water has been replaced with Acid Splash. Here's the thing: Shape Water is in the Player's Handbook. Or it's not in the Player's Handbook, I should say.
Right.
So this is why they're changing
that
some of
was
them.
in Skag, wasn't it?
It was Elemental.
Damn it, yeah.
Elemental Companion, yeah. You can now cast Water Walk once when you reach 5th level. And this is the same thing again. So the trait is gets the other bonuses as well. So yes, because you have acid damage naturally, actually. So the change shape water. Oh yes, you can also. It seems like you can still cast Create or Destroy Water at 2nd level once you reach 3rd level in your character. So you can still have that, but now you again at 5th level you get the Water Walk ability. So it seems all of them have gotten an ability to do a cantrip at level 1. Well, not all of them, sorry, barring the Earth Ganassi, but I feel like the multiple use as a bonus action of Blade Ward kind of makes up for it.
Yeah.
So you can need to do a proficient or cantrip at 1st level. At 3rd level you get a 1st level spell, and then you get a 2nd level spell, I believe, at 5th level, which seems to be the trend. I think it's quite good. I think these bonuses are really, really good. I hope a lot more people play Ganassi now, because I really love Ganassi. They're so flavorful and so interesting.
I could see myself playing like air or earth. Yeah.
What are we like in time, man?
We're pretty much out of time, Connor.
Okay, I'm going to do one more because I know you like it.
Okay.
With Goliath, the natural athlete ability and the powerful build ability have been combined into a trait called Little Giant, which I love. Little Giant,
Oh,
it's cute.
Little Giant.
And then the stones. Here's the mother, man. Here's the good one.
Goliath
Stones
are
endurance.
the tanks of D&D now.
Yeah. Stones endurance. You can now use your proficiency bonus times per long rest. Thank you, because Stone's Endurance is a great ability, but once per short rest is not enough.
It's also powerful as hell. It's 1d12 plus con mod. It reducing the damage.
That is a lot, like.
If you roll a 12, you're taking the bite out of anything even up to a crit. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Also, one last one. Heron gone. No changes.
Hey!
Martin.
Yes, Connor.
That's all the time we have for today.
I'm really excited about this book now. I'm actually really excited about this book.
There's actually way more we didn't. We might even have a look at these next week.
I was actually going to say there's enough left there for us to talk about, because we've Hobgoblin, Kenku, Kobold, Lizard Folk, Minotaur, Orc, Sea Elf, Satyr, Orc. Sorry, I said Orc twice there. Sea Elf, Shatterkai, Shifter, Tabaxi, Turtle, Triton, and Yuan-Ti.
And I also skipped over Githyanki and Githzerai and Goblin.
Yes, so we can.
So we have a lot. We should definitely come back to this next week.
We're going to do a part 2 of this next week, where we'll I nearly said swip again instead of swap. Goddamn! I switch and swap. I always mix them up and say swip and swatch.
Oh no, Martin's lost his ability to speak.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
So, if you have any questions you'd like us to ask, or like to ask us, I should say.
Don't actually ask them verbally, because clearly I can't speak anymore.
Stories you would like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at MikeFlayer'sPod on Twitter. You can also find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Republic. Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet, on Twitter, at So Sorry It's Over, which is in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen there. And also, I generally man the Micflayers podcast Twitter account, which is at MyFlayersPod, like Connor said a few moments ago. But those are the main places you can find me online. Where can people find you on the internet, Connor?
People can find me at 0.Connor, ZeroPointConor, 1 N, very important. Or on every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time on the Micflayers podcast on all the aforementioned platforms. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed all this today. I hope you're as excited about all these updates as we are. We'll come back next week with and finish out the list, because like I said, there's a lot there. But until then, guys, have a good time, play D&D, have fun. We will talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Goodbye.
See you next week for part 2.